guys, I'm back with another sketchbook tour. This one is the 2018 June to January Stillman and Birn Zeta edition, and this sketchbook was the first time I've used a Stillman and Birn. It's the first one I ever bought, and this is the one that made me fall in love with their entire brand, because what I wanted was just a sketchbook with really thick, very high quality paper or pages that could handle inks, watercolors, acrylics, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the pages in here were kind of like a test to see how the paper would stand up, and I gotta say it was just so impressive. I ended up like going and buying a bunch right away, so I loved it. Oh, sorry, I missed a page here. This is actually one of the last pages I painted, mainly because I painted it and then repainted it and then repainted it and then repainted it one more time, and I hated it every time and I hate it now, but I'm over it. I've decided to just let that go because it's a finished page and not everything has to look good. So I'm over it, but this page did not exactly turn out how I wanted it to. Oh well. This one here was the first time I wanted to try acrylics on this paper, and I used a new brand of acrylics that I had just bought, and quite glossy, but to my great surprise it doesn't stick together, which is just a miracle, so love it. This was testing watercolors on here, so I used Winsor & Newton and a little bit of Daniel Smith as well, and a couple of the glossy iridescent ones as well, which was really great. I got to test them all out, and I really love the photograph this came from. It didn't turn out quite how I wanted it to, but I'm over that as well. This one was inspired by something I saw on Instagram, and it reminded me kind of like a cave, but also like Swiss cheese in a way, and I just really love it. It has that kind of bubbly effect, and it was just fun. There's not a lot of words in the first couple pages, unlike my usual work, so it was kind of fun to just try something new. So this page is pretty boring. This was a test of India ink, and I'm just so in love with the fact that, first of all, the pages are white. They're not a cream, they're not an ivory, they're white. And it's really hard, surprisingly enough, to find a sketchbook with white pages as opposed to anything else. So I was just so thrilled to have found one. They do have ivory as part of their other series, but this one had white pages, and I was just like, absolutely, like that was the selling point for me. And the other one is just that this is like India ink, which is usually fairly thick, and it usually causes a lot of bleed through and ghosting to the other pages, and just absolutely nothing. Like it just sits on top, and it's beautiful and wonderful, and that was the main big test. Was India ink was the number one thing I was always worried about. So yeah, it looks fantastic, does not bleed through. I'm thrilled. This was really fun. I got a new set of watercolors, and I decided to try masking fluid as well. So I put down this masking fluid with a paintbrush down, and then put the watercolor on top. And yeah, I really love how it turned out. It's probably like one of my favorite pages that I've done. And plus, you know, I love rainbows in all of my sketchbooks, so this was the rainbow for this one. This one, again, one of those things where I had this idea in my head and tried it out, really didn't love it. All of this, by the way, is free-handed. Like I basically, I used a ruler to just guide it, but basically all of it, after I fleshed out the main shapes, was done just by hand. And I was worried because I wanted to just keep it black and white, but it looked too plain. It didn't look right to me. So I thought, okay, I'm taking the biggest risk by adding color, because I find color either makes or breaks any sort of art. So in this particular case, I really love how it turned out, but I was really scared the entire time. I was like, I'm gonna ruin this. And I spent so long on this page. I spent probably 8, maybe 10 hours doing each single line by hand, and it was just so exhausting, but I really love how it turned out, so I'm quite happy with that, because usually after I spend that much time on something, I end up just hating it on principle, but in this case, loved it. So this was, I wanted to see if I could do an entire page using one color of a watercolor, and to really test out the values to see how light and how dark it could go, and to see how I could kind of use it. And I really like how it turned out as well. This was, I believe, Prussian blue, but don't quote me on that. I think that's what it was. And yeah, just really love just the intense shades you can get, but also the light as well is really cool. This one was gouache. I was testing gouache on this one. And I really love it. It looks and it feels when you're using it so like buttery almost. So really, really enjoyed that. This was, if you've seen my sketchbook tours of my mini journals, I use the same concept here. I tore out words from a magazine and put them together in different order. And in this particular case, it actually worked out really well. This is probably another one of my favorite pages from my sketchbooks of 2018. And it came together. It actually worked. So it's quite cool. I love that. This was some more watercolor and ink, just a regular pen. And this, you probably can't probably can't recognize her, but this is Stephanie Beatriz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She plays Rosa. And I subscribed to one of those like art boxes where they send you supplies every month. And one of them that I got was a pencil that was half blue and half red on one side, and I wanted to just kind of go with it and see if I could do a mirror on each page to do the same thing but in the different colors. So that was kind of the idea for this one, and I really love how it turned out. And it was actually also the first time I did not the first time I think, but the first time I've actually put effort into doing like a live drawing on Instagram. So quite pleased with how it turned out. This was a, I forgot the name of the artist now, but one artist on Instagram who does these portraits of people using just basically one marker. And he does the whole thing in these little scratchy like hatch marks. And I kind of wanted to try that out myself and see if I enjoyed it. And it was really nerve-wracking the whole time just because I'm so not used to it. And I feel like I could definitely try this again. It was really fun. It was very different from what I've done in the past, and I feel like I could learn more about like the different values I can get to get lighter and darker and stuff like that. So yeah, I would definitely try it again. It was really fun. So this was just again India ink and testing out different fungi. In fact, this page I was originally just gonna write "I'm a fun guy," like a fun guy. Get it? Oh, I'm sorry. Some more acrylic. This was a test of watercolors just to see the different colors I can get from a new set that I had gotten. It's the same one that was from that that rainbow page from the beginning. I'm not gonna find it now. This one. So same watercolors. Just testing out the different colors and how they work together. And the page here, I'm just gonna read it out because I like it. So I've been talking to my brother about the protagonists in our own stories. I have a million worlds in my head. I'm the star of all of them. He told me he's barely even in his. It's about the fall of civilization and how we rebuild a new world. Why would I want to be in it? I ask him why not be the hero who solves everything. He tells me his stories last for generations. I tell him, so be immortal. He starts lecturing me about the logistical fallacies and narrative problems. He's the omniscient god in his story. I'm the hero of mine. I guess I'm just wondering what the difference is, and I guess I'm wondering why it matters. So, really like just random little story, but you know when people always ask me, where do you get your inspiration from? And I feel like such a dork when I just say everything. Conversations with people, things I overhear, things on the internet, things on TV. And this is just one tiny little example. I just wrote something, a conversation I had with my brother. It's just, sometimes you just put little things, little tiny memories, and it's fun to look back on those in a couple of years and see have these things changed? Are they still the same? All that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I didn't really like how this page turned out. I feel like I definitely messed her up. In fact, I redid this drawing in a different art journal, so not in the same one, but it'll be in another video, so you may recognize her again. So This one, I don't really want to talk too much about this one, mainly because it's something bad happened while I was working on this page that's relevant to what it ended up turning into. I won't get into it now, but it was for now we'll say it's a acrylic, trying to learn how to paint with acrylics when it comes to faces, which I'm not very good at, but you know, learning, so it's all good. That was my attempt at painting the Aurora Borealis. I don't think I did a very good job, but that's okay. This page, I sort of hate it because it took way too long and I don't like how it turned out. It took, honestly, 8 hours because each tiny little dot I had to paint and then paint another dot on top. I think I watched like 3 movies while making this entire page. And in the end, I was like, about it. Like, didn't love it, don't really hate it, but just But I learned how long it takes to draw a circle and also that I can't do a perfect circle. It's just impossible. Don't really love these pages, but that's okay. This one, I actually really did like how these two turned out because what happened was I had been painting a lot of acrylic portraits, and I went back to watercolor to do these two on one random day, and I felt like I had changed how I kind of approach the concept of drawing portraits, and I feel like learning how to paint in acrylic helped me understand how to use watercolor to my benefit, and I feel like my watercolor paintings got a lot better just from kind of using a different medium for a while and seeing how I can use different concepts that I learned from acrylics into watercolor, and I feel like it made kind of a really big difference. So really love how these two turned out. They're kind of this one in particular is one of my favorite portraits that I've done so far. So. And this one, I painted this like 2 days before New Year's Eve, and this was my sort of blessing, I suppose, for the new year. So I hope you have grace, I hope you have compassion, I hope you have clarity, and above all else, I hope you move ever forward. And I really like how I painted her. Sort of a Lord of the Rings type of deal, even though I've never read the books. So I don't actually know what I'm doing. I guess you can call it the movies, which I also haven't watched in years, so just like elves, let's call it that. And that's this journal. So 2018, this was again the Stillman and Birn Zeta edition, and it is one of the shorter ones. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I've got a bunch more coming up because I finished them all at the same time. So thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you have a favorite page, and see you next time.